Alright, it's time to end this once again. Properly confront Nefarious. It's an interesting case where the villain is not exactly cornered, but it suffers still a bit of a loss. The fact that we still managed to get, a W in the previous part, did help instead of having everything being too bleak. So
Logic dictates though that it comes down to this because whether or not we have Nefarious cornered, if he wants his plans to go through, he'll probably want to come and defend his last resort himself, basically.
And yeah, the being the last level, of course, is easily the hardest, chock full of roboticized tyrannoids. But again, in the meantime, I've also leveled up enough, if I recall correctly, my weapons. So again, it's more of a case of just getting there. Again, if I had to say also something is that this final level music is technically fine, but nothing that is really memorable, which has been kind of a thing, for most of the franchise. Again, do not to, you know, the this too much David Bergeron, but we are 3 games in, and one of the more memorable some music tracks I argue, at least to me, were mostly in the first game, which is kind of a shame.
Ratchet
Again,
and Clank definitely feels like it goes to the school of put in a track that's just good enough, basically. Not saying that that's a losing strategy, but it tends to lead to not as memorable soundtracks.
and honestly, I can't believe that the guy actually had passion into putting, in the projects, So I'm not even gonna, discount that, especially because while he will stick still for a while for the franchise, halfway through roughly of the future saga, he will be dropped and replaced with someone else. I forgot who specifically. So at the very least, I can't believe that he wanted to, have to give it all that he could while he was there. I've been told that the fan, as a general thought, the fan base tends to having regard the PSP Speedon soundtrack, and having played them recently, I can tell, yeah, there is a bit more energy in that, so I can see that. Anyway, time for...
Is that Secret Agent Clank?
And the size matters. The size matters comes first of that, however. Anyway, as I mentioned, the robotization of the Tyrannoids puts, an extra challenge in the diplomacy checks, because of course, the Holo guys has us as an organic Tyrannoid, so why should they trust you, because you're not being roboticized, as this particular small guy says. Again, it's kind of a neat way to insert extra difficulty.
You're going to be passing through my bowels if you're still standing here in 5 seconds.
Tyrannoids have a very
Cannibalism.
colorful language, as you can see. Yes, Jova?
I love it. He basically threatened him with
I
cannibalism.
can tell that someone really liked either Elfram Jim or Boogerman over there at Insomniac.
Also, this was 2004, if I recall correctly. It was
Probably
not
before you.
not too long after the movie Evolution, a movie that, I seem to be the only one who has watched it when it came out. Again, as I mentioned, it's a sci-fi movie that sounds potentially silly, till the last, at least, that's what it means, and it means collecting enough balls. But, and and it's a movie that involves an invasion of particular, organic aliens, which are composed of a specific matter, to the point where the climax has the scientist of the team reasoning that the only way to defeat them using anti-dandruff shampoo because it contains selenium, and bizarre logic, but using the periodic table, if he traces the base of carbonium having its natural poison as arsenic, the equivalent of the aliens, using the same logic, would be selenium, which is contained in the anti-dandruff shampoo. Again, it's a silly movie, but I kind of enjoyed it. It even spawned an animated series, and that one had it was kind of a ripoff of Ghostbuster, because they gave the team a Slimer equivalent, basically an alien that they dedomesticated, and expressed itself only in fart noises. Lovely, I know.
Did they pull it off?
Okay, I did enjoy it back then, where it was the target audience, so that would mean, 14, 15 tops. But I don't remember the animation being particularly stellar, and some of the jokes were already a bit wince-inducing back then, so I can imagine it might, not have aged spectacularly. Not necessarily in terms of, controversial theming, just, not particularly good humor and animation. Also, I remember that, it contains the stupid trope of the human military general makes a deal with the alien leader in order to keep half of the Earth for himself, with the vain hope that he will let humanity survive like that. Fucking
Of
stupid.
course! Jesus.
I remember the alien leader called Scopes, I think that was his name, being a decent enough threat, and they had the excuse of the alien works in a kind of a blob mentality of what the fuck are you doing? Blob mentality of even if you kill one, they have a sort of a generation chamber where they can respawn eventually, and it's all about trying to, trim their numbers. But this particular alien leader, even if killed, can potentially respawn because it's considered, a leader entity for the aliens, so it's kind of pivotal for their invasion, So again, it kind of makes me wonder if that might have been a source of inspiration for this tool, because it was fairly recent back in all this. But anyway, yeah, as I can say, I'm using the Infecto Bomb, which is the upgraded version of Infector. The only weird thing is that how these particular mini drones were shooting before, because instead of shooting at the enemies, they were shooting upward. That's what I was not getting. There you go.
Die.
Well, yeah, that's what the sniper rifle is for. Again, this is why the Infecto Bomb, or at least even the not upgraded version, it says does somebody has an antibiotic if you use the weapon enough time. Again, it's also one of the reasons why I did it, because I basically essentially a cleanup run, like I said, where I was getting the platinum as well. But again, it's best to be used here with Infecto Bomb, because that basically puts the number a bit in your advantage, and considering these are endgame type of enemies, it's for the best. Also, in Tool Tradition, it makes you use almost all of the gadgets that you have acquired until this point. Possibly a bit better than the previous two games, because I remember the second game does not make you use in the final level the gadget that changes the temperature of the water for some reason.
Okay, so this could
There we go.
for a while.
Save cracking with Ratchet, yes.
Yeah. Hello and welcome to Save Cracking with Ratchet and Clank Tier 2 as well, I guess.
Well, to be fair, again, the tool is the one that Ratchet uses. I guess Clank may give some indication. Yeah, that's actually a good point. Why wouldn't the Aki minigame be handled by Clank instead? Why does Ratchet need an extra, gadget for that? Especially because in one of the spin-offs, Size Matters, it shows that Clank can use some form of data downloading and security bypassing. So you'll think they will try to do something about that, but I don't distinctly remember if that actually happens in the franchise. But I don't think so. I know that
because Ratchet is an attention whore.
I
To have everything for himself. The git.
Of course. I know that the Future Saga does away with the hacking, not completely, but it's definitely a less much of a focus. Doesn't have that much in terms of hacking a minigame. It tries to compensate with other stuff, so don't worry about that. But
Yeah. Actually, technically, Theo, it does come back and rift apart, just in a very different manner.
Yeah, even if you use also the reflector. Again, I kind of like the fact that they managed to have, you know, make you add different uses of the reflector instead of being a one-time gimmick. Out of the three games, yeah, I can tell that this is the one where it's, despite the rush nature, it's the one where things are more balanced in terms of, you know, having the gadget being distributed throughout the course of the game instead of being just a, you know, the one-time thing. Kind of reminds me of instead the Life 3 where they make you use Panda King in like 2-3 mission tops of in the entire game. Yeah, the plasma coil, I think I mentioned it, but just to be safe, the plasma coil has a simple projectile that when it comes in contact with an enemy, uses, zaps, you know, another one that is nearby. It's not a case of chain lightning, but, you know, at the very least it's good against, you know, big groups that are, you know, they stick together.
We're too late.
Oh my.
Get in!
Go on,
Better luck next time, Ratchet. Go
go
on.
on, Jota.
Which will be real soon, Buckethead, but okay.
There it is! Nefarious has already initiated the launch sequence. If that thing gets into space, Veldin won't have a chance.
That's not gonna happen.
Why is it always Veldin? Is probably what Ratchet's thinking. Alright, where are we dropping, bros?
Yeah, seriously, you know that, you know, the Sony does not realize marketing potential where they had Kratos in Fortnite instead of Ratchet, where it would have fit so much better.
Don't fall into the water.
Surprise!
You will pay for your insolence, you
That's
miserable
more of a,
rodent.
that's more of a Leonine.
Sorry, Nefarious. Your flight's been cancelled.
Ah! Lawrence! Lawrence!
Oh dear.
Lawrence!
How can I be of assistance?
Annihilate him!
Just kidding. You've reached my holographic voicemail. Leave your name and a brief message. Ta-ta.
Ah, fine. I'll do it myself.
He literally said, I'll do it myself. Okay, I'm happy to report when we finally have a final boss theme. I know, crazy. And it's actually a pretty good one, I will say that. This will actually be used in as the second Ratchet and Clank track for one of the stages in PlayStation Stars Battle Royale. As a result, yes, Drova.
Keep in mind also, this is the first time we get to actually fight the main antagonist head-on for the final boss.
Okay, I guess to an extent because
Well,
Drake was in
okay,
a giant mech. I guess that's what you mean.
True, yeah.
Yeah, you can see Nefarious is not exactly a cakewalk either. Like, it makes... Okay, it's not exactly spongy, but it makes up for that by having, you know, a lot of attacks that you really, really need to be careful of. So I also appreciate that.
Going back to what I was originally going to ask, which do you prefer? A game that gives you power-ups and new characters, even close to the point at the end where unfortunately you won't get to use the latest one often? Or do you prefer it where, say, it caps off stuff relatively, okay, not even early, but like midway through the game, so that you can at least enjoy it?
I have no choice.
Especially because there's something I need to point out.
But to throw myself
Uh-huh.
on your mercy.
Right.
Really?
Come on, just roll the
that's right,
credits
Nefarious.
Kincaid rule style
Your
while you're
reign
at
of
it.
terror is finally...
By the way, that it's the last line of Ratchet in the entire game. I'm not kidding. Through the entire ending sequence, Ratchet says nothing.
What happened? Was James Arnold Taylor on a holiday?
I had no fucking idea. Maybe it was something that was dummied out. I don't fucking also. Whoa, giant Clank statue. But Anyway, this next sequence you basically need to chase away Nefarious while he's also shooting fucking laser beam and having to deal with the army. It's basically a skip and hop simulator while you try to get to him. To answer your question, Jova, the former, because that's kind of what this franchise does, but in order to compensate that, it has challenge mode, aka New Game Plus, in order to, you know, make you appreciate the stuff that you couldn't use that much during the first run, you know. Something like that. Besides, I will always prioritize, like I said in a lot of, you know, of our runs, made a statement. I will always prioritize, you know, a game that favors some sort of upgrade system instead of giving you all the tools from the beginning. The kind of sense of the kind of sense of, you know, experience and reward as you play it, stuff like that.
Would you say the same also goes for like when you add on characters, like say kind of like what Sly 3 did, where sadly Panda King doesn't get as much playtime as the others. But,
that is a bit more complex, so I don't know. Also, for the last bit, the Galactic Rangers join you for that. Again, I don't want to know if they show up only if you help them completely or not. Anyway, proper final boss fight, proper final phase for Nefarious, and as you can see, things are amped up. Yes, Pedro?
For me, it depends on the game. Like with Ratchet, it works usually really fine, especially because the game does a good job making sure the levels are designed in a way where it can be done in multiple ways without necessarily having to go for specific powers. If it's something like Sonic Unleashed and Sonic Adventure 2, I personally would have preferred all of my supposed to be available from the get-go, because a lot of times it becomes a bit annoying when I'm doing a new game in those two games, and I want to do something that I already know how to do, and I know exactly, but I can't because I have to wait until the game arbitrarily decides I can now. So it's just...
Well, I'm not necessarily talking about okay, potentially maybe included, but not necessarily, you know, having story-related ability. I'm talking just about also potentially, you know, raw power, or maybe a new combo to do in a combat situation. That's what I mean.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, then.
It's one of the reasons why Jak 2 is so frustrating to me, because it gives you upgrades at specific points in the game. They're basically predetermined in how you get them, which is itself is not too bad of an idea. The problem is that the game is very relentless, so you will scrounge basically to any bit of help that you can while the game is bombarding you with very, very challenging missions. I can imagine that if I replayed it right now, it would be much more doable to me, but for the intended target audience of teen, that's arguably, you know, not probably the level people intended. Even compared to the first game. The first game is not something. The first game is something that can become potentially a bit annoying if you want to 100% it. But you know, when it comes to actually playing it, I think it's still fairly doable as the Crash game on PS1. Again, Jak 2 on the other hand just feels on a different level, basically. Thankfully, with 3 they actually, you know, managed to balance out the difficulty. Alright, time to, there you go, using also my trusty bouncer, which I couldn't level up. That's not, always does the trick. What the fuck is Lawrence wearing? Lives, is that a Beatles reference or something?
Probably, yeah. Lawrence, what did I tell you about cosplaying as the Beatles?
If you insist.
Surprise! Your real final boss is the Biobliterator itself.
Kinda makes you wonder why he doesn't just have it fire on us with the
Villain stupidity, but uh-oh, it turns out Quark arrived at the very end. Alright, that also
what happened to your pupils?
That happens all the time during these cutscenes, Lives. That also means you have to hop into an airship, a bit kind of like the final boss of Spyro 3, and running around, you know, to destroy the Biobliterator. That's cute.
So here you go, our final fight, and we do it alongside Captain Quark. Finally,
which also means that
unicorn.
Which also means that yes, at the end of the day, Captain Quark really was the key to defeat Dr. Nefarious. I cannot believe that turned out to be true.
It says a Han Solo. Go on, kid. Now let's build this jet and go back home.
Pretty
moment,
much.
basically.
After this game, Quark will remain in a more relatively stable type of role. Deadlock is just there for a cameo. When it comes to the future saga, he's still kind of an idiot, but he's far less antagonistic at the very least.
Well,
Yeah.
concretely, by the time of Rift Apart, he's practically one of the main protagonists.
Well,
No, in Rift Apart, unfortunately, he doesn't really have any major role, probably because of Jim Ward's.
the game
I'm
has
talking more so about like his heroic status. I probably should have clarified.
Okay, that's the
Okay,
thing, Jova.
yeah.
By the time of All for One, he becomes Galactic President.
Yes.
Sure, it doesn't last that much, thankfully, but this is explained, by the way, in the comic, the fact like, how basically he became Galactic President, because, like I said, that comic basically serves to bridge in a bit the gaps with between the old games and the new.
If this insert person here can become president, then joke, basically.
Yeah.
Oh, the humiliation! Defeated by squishes! Oh, I'll never live this down!
Oh, don't worry, it can get worse.
What?
You're gonna love this,
Engage
please.
the teleporter. Would you care to specify a destination, sir?
Who cares? Just get us out of here. What? That wasn't even close to 60 seconds!
Lives, have you wrote this again?
Yeah, well, I mean, he's
And
the bad
we
guy,
cut
so
immediately to the epilogue that is Clank's new movie. And again, Ratchet says nothing.
Thousands of fanatical fans clamor for a glimpse of their favorite celebrities.
Alright, let's see if these, and yeah, a bunch of cameos from the first and second game, including Chairman Drax second in command. What is he doing here? Alright, Waves, let's see if this Bond parody actually is what you like.
Okay, snowboarding down snowboarding, yeah, that's sort of skiing of some sort. That is kind of what Bond does sometimes.
Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if Bond snowboarded in the 90s.
They probably would have had
Agent Clank.
Pierce Brosnan do
It
that.
seems your luck has finally run out. The time has come to say goodbye. Your tricks won't do you any good this time, Agent Clank. I have been waiting for this moment a long time, and now I am going to blow you into a million pieces! Get this thing off me!
Oh yeah, I remember that scene in James Bond where he teams up with a monkey.
Boo! Fucking hell.
You know,
Why are you
James
applauding?
Bond doesn't even laugh at his own jokes.
And yeah,
Oh,
by the way, that's it. We have a post-credit scene, but yeah, that's how the original trilogy ends. You see what I mean when I say that, you know, it doesn't really feel too much of an epilogue? It just stops like that.
I feel like, again, while I do think this is the best of the original trilogy stories, I do feel like, at the very least, the original trilogy, Ratchet and Clank games, always had weirdly abrupt endings, which, to be fair, was kind of a thing of video games at the time.
And besides,
I guess.
thanks to Ted Price's interview, we knew that they were not going to just stop at a trilogy. They wanted to franchise this as much as they could even back then. So again, this was not really intended as the complete other end, but still, like, holy shit, it's like they were counting the seconds, basically. Anyway, no final thoughts for the time being, because we have an extra part to watch. Basically, Joe, my thing with the comic, again, I can still sum you up the plot and give you some still images to understand, but the one of the major reasons why I don't really want to do it, outside of the length, it's like 6 issues, so it's not too long, it's just so ugly to look at.
I do know what you're talking about with the art style, though.
No, again, it's just not, it wouldn't really be a pleasant thing to look at, I'm sorry. That's pretty much the major reason.
It doesn't bug me as much, but I do agree that I guess you could arguably sum up what happened in the comics. Like, I'll say this, it's thankfully not on the level of Assassin's Creed with stuff we miss out, but it is stuff that, weirdly enough, isn't even really exposited on much in the games, which is like, I wonder if it's going off of that old school mentality of, well, to maximize the profits of a game series, let's add integral information into everything but the games.
It was with an intended idea of trying to do franchising, which Sony was doing for all of its projects back then. But despite being in continuity and everything, it's just there to be mostly fan service. It's clearly a self-contained story, but it's still set within the canon, you know, and acknowledges some continuity point. The only new real thing that tells that I guess would be pivotal is to discover how Quark became Galactic President. But honestly, argue you don't really need that.
I think one of the better examples is when Gears of War basically did the prequel comic, like, hey, we got to see some of the parents of characters that we knew.
You have to also remember that was being done. Sony basically went to the whole comic tie-in way later down the line. Microsoft was doing that, even before that.
Oh yeah, I think they started doing that with Halo, because, well, Halo was
Halo and Gears. I don't think Fable had tie-in comic, which honestly I don't even think how that could work.
Nah, Fable doesn't really seem the type suited for a comic
Unless,
expedition.
again with Peter Molyneux wrote it like a choose your own adventure kind of a thing. If you want to beat this person up, go to page 45.
God, I remember those kinds of books. I don't remember if a comic version was ever made of that.
There have been some stuff in my country, 1 or 2 cases tied to Mickey Mouse comics where they tried to do that experiment. It was actually pretty neat.
Interesting. It sounds like you've got a lot of the cool experimental Disney tie-in material.
Well, okay, you should ask also Nald, the Italian friend of Gaggi. He also knows a bit more than me, but yeah. Again, the general part that you need to know is that we did imported back in the day stuff that Floyd Gottfredson and Bill Walsh were doing between the 30s and the 40s, basically, and starting with, God, I think the 60s, we started producing our own stuff with supervision, and approval out of Disney, and we never stopped, basically. Believe it or not, Jova, the very first thing, the proof of concept, was an adaptation of Dante's Divine Comedy with Mickey going literally to hell. It was amazing. But anyway, again, the credit music is also fine. I think it's recycled from one of the levels, but nothing too special going on. Like I said, we're about to also get a post-credit scene. This is why we're not ending the part immediately. The only other thing that I might want to add is that, independently from the final thoughts, is that I still like the end product, despite the rush nature, that had all the things being cut. So there is that. Also, Jim Ward apparently did the monkey noises from Scrunch. You think they would just have
and the fire noise?
You would think they would, at least for Scrunch, they would have stock monkey sound effects. This is something that always fascinates me. Instead of having, generic animal sound effects, no, they need to have someone like Frank Welker or D. Bradley Baker doing animal noises.
I'm guessing the idea is stock animal effects would eventually become rather repetitive, assuming they don't use much, essentially. That's my main theory as to why people insist on having humans voice animals, which, hey, to their credit, apparently they do a really good job voicing those animals, since a lot of time people can't tell. It feels like the main trio are Frank Welker, D. Bradley Baker, and Trace McNeil when it comes to animal sounds.
Each compression, blah blah. Yeah, the sound mixing people actually argue also a bit better than the first two games, so there is that too. Outside of the what what's it called, the Holo Comics. That was a bit weird. Also Shuei Yoshida in the special quest.
Kazharai.
Yeah, remember it was still, you know, the big chief back then.
And Max Cerny and Phil Harrison.
Hayden, Mark Cerny, oh my.
Again, Roberto Rodriguez, not to be confused with Robert Rodriguez.
Yeah.
And
also
Hey,
Sucker
Sucker
Punch.
Punch.
Again,
everyone
they
that
need some support. All of United. Yeah, that's also another thing. It was also mentioning the Resistance credit, but Insomniac did have a good, healthy relationship with online communities, so that's actually neat. I don't know if they're still active that much these days, but I can imagine no, because of what happened with Spider-Man 2. No ships or ducks were harming the making of this game. Good to know. It's a running gag since the early Spyro.
Yeah.
So, what happened to Nefarious and Lawrence?
I'm afraid we're well out of range, sir. Perhaps if you had bothered to specify a destination...
When will we be in range?
Oh, I'm sure something will come along in, say, 5 or 10,000 years.
Ah! I don't believe this! Now what?
I don't suppose you can play drums.
It'll be fine.
At the very least, we're definitely sure that we'll never see, you know, Nefarious ever again.
Oh yeah, totally.
Tune in for the next part, where we see a bit of the extras, and that also includes the Insomniac Museum of this game. See ya.
See ya.
Done.
Hey.